Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I hope everyone's doing well. So I was actually editing this video and I realized I did not do an introduction. So in this video we'll be going through the front bumper, the wing, and basically trying to get as much on the car as possible in order to get the car prepared to drive around and get some quotes to do some of the body work. So I hope you guys do like it. It's quite a long one, so yeah, please do like and subscribe. I really hope you guys enjoy the video. Roll on to the rest of the video. Okay, so first of all, we're going to try and replace this one here. So this arm was kind of knocked in the accident. This bit is the mounting point for the wing. So this is what on the other side. So it's the mounting point here. So it's also missing the front bumper connection point as well. It was completely broken, crumpled. You can kind of see that it's here. It's completely broken and crumpled. So anyway, I'm gonna remove that because it was cheaper to actually just replace it than it would be to mess around trying to get this and that to be absolutely perfect. I did think that these were screws, but it turns out they're kind of like the washers on the screws actually screwing from the bottom. So I've managed to buy some caravan like ramp things just to get enough distance off the ground so I can kind of get in under there and get to it. And then in the meantime, I'm currently just painting the visible sides of this white. So this is my replacement one. So I'm just trying to paint that white just so that it kind of looks a little bit better. And I'm also painting the bridge. I got the bridge which sits on top of the radiator, so currently painting that. So anyway, I'm gonna crack on with getting this front side off, and then we can hopefully replace it. Okay, so I've had to take this side bit off, side bit of trim. And all this does is it sits kind of like here, and it just funnels air through to the brake system. I think it's pretty similar for all RCs, even though this isn't necessarily a performance car, but they have it just to provide some more air to the brakes. But in order to do that, I had to take off the front bottom bit of trim that just sits underneath here. So I had to do that. It's just quite a few little screws. They just stuck in all around. So anyway, now I've got to get to this bit here. So I'm trying to take this arm off here. Got two screws that are just there. Just about to see them there. And they just come in. There's two. There's one right there, and there's another one just behind it, just up in there. So take those two out, and then hopefully we'll be able to take this arm off and then replace it with the other one. So the first part of this step is just to remove all the remaining connected parts. So any of the electronic holders, the electronic sensors, any of the remaining bits of wiring, loom and trim, and just trying to remove them from this part of the frame. Once you do that, you're going to remove the front latch and then wiggle it free and remove some of those remaining connecting bolts in order to try and free the rest of this. It's pretty simple. It's pretty much bolt on, bolt off. So yeah, pretty simple to get around it in the ends, but just took a bit of time finding where all the individual bolts were. Okay, so I'll take a little bit more off than I expected, but we are there. So yeah, these are like the main crash arms, but they're pretty fine, no dents at all. It's all just like normal. Had to take that off. But while I'm here, this is completely broken. Luckily, I've got a new one, or a second-hand new one. So while I've got access to this, I'm going to quick replace it, and then I can put on the arm to replace that. I want to do that while it's still fresh in my memory on where all the bolts are and where they all go. So let's quickly do that.
So this airbox was actually pretty easy to replace. It's just a couple of clips. Lucky enough for me, all the clips have actually broken and all the screws had remained on the chassis. So it was pretty easy to figure out where they all went, as the screws are still there and I didn't have to buy any more screws in order to replace those. So that was pretty easy. The main problem with this part is it's just really fiddly. There's quite a few tricky positions and tricky clips and kind of connection points that are quite tricky to get to. But overall, it's not too bad in the grand scheme of things. There's certainly some worse positions in the car that have really bad access. So it just took a bit of time just to wiggle a few of those connectors free, and then I was able to get the new one on, which we can see just about now. So one of the main reasons why I had to replace this is that hole there. So that was quite a tricky one. It's obviously not a huge issue, but I didn't want anything going into the engine. It's the engine inbox air take. So I really want to make sure that that's all clean and done. And now it's just removing the remaining of those screws and getting ready to fit the new one. It's obviously very easy once you remove it and then then put a new one straight back on. You know exactly where all the screws go, exactly where the connectors go. So it's pretty straightforward in order to get things lined up and then plumbed into position. So at this point, I'm now in a position where I can get the new front sidearm mount on, and I realized that this new part came with an additional connector, and that's the bit that I was just hammering out now. So in the crash, that part had been pushed right the way up, which kind of made it very difficult for me to connect that point. So I had to use the old trusty hammer, and I managed to push that back down into its normal original position, and then that gave me a good connecting point where I can mount on that new part. So now that I had access to this front part of the car, it was a perfect opportunity for me to install this reservoir. I'm not entirely sure what it's actually used for, but it was pretty easy. It was only 2 or 3 screws. The main hard part was trying to connect the reservoir to the airbox. And now I was just finishing off by screwing in a couple of very tricky rusty screws into the bottom of that main side arm.
So it's been a long evening. Managed to get this full arm on now. I managed to get that bit installed there, so that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. Reinstalled the lower bit of trim. So yeah, it's looking nice steady now, nice and good, all in. This is the main mounting point here. Main mounting point here is also on, so that's pretty good. Happy with that. So I can get the main, I guess, I don't know, bridge, what do you call it, on. But something else. This car does not come with a fuse box cover, so I bought one. Got this for £25, I think it was. And the thing that made me help me actually do this is the fact that it's exactly the same as my IS. So that was pretty simple to try and get that on fixed. So I'm gonna quickly do this. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up for tonight, and then tomorrow I'm gonna carry on. Hopefully gonna try and put the whole front end back on together. So yeah, fingers crossed it goes well. Hey, welcome back. So we're on the next day now, and I've had a haircut. No doubt you can probably tell. Anyhow, today we're starting a little bit later. We're starting at about 5 o'clock now, so I'm gonna try and work through pretty much most evenings, try and get as much of this done as possible. It's a lovely day, really hot. So more specifically, what I'm gonna try and do is put this rear bottom bit of plastic in. I'm then also going to put the main struts on. I also want to replace the broken hinges and also the bonnet latch ups as well, which are pretty expensive to get, but anyway, all part of the fun. And then I'm hoping to try and get the front wing on, and then maybe get to a position where I can get the front bumper on. I'm not entirely sure on that, but we'll see how we go. So I've just had to remove these top bolts from this wing so I can pull this back a little bit. So I just get a bit more access down into these screws down here, bolts down here, because they are really tricky to get access otherwise. So just giving you a bit more play. So anyway, hope I can get this off now.
So at this point, I'm now moving on to the Pyrotechnic pop-up hoods and pedestrian crash system on the front. So it's pretty simple. It's only 2 or 3 screws. I think it was 2 screws, which just connects to the main side chassis of the car. The real hard part, tricky part, was it's just very fiddly, and you have to use a simple spanner and work it backwards and forwards over and over again in order to try and get there. There's no real proper access to get any sockets or anything else in there. So pretty simple. It just took quite a long time in order to work those screws free.
Okay, apologies not filming this, but I just had a little bit of an issue. Anyhow, managed to fit these pedestrian crash sensors. They're pretty easy apart from the clip at the bottom. That was a real fiddle to get to. So I've just done it on that side. I've also done it on this side as well. Now, you would not believe, but these 2 parts directly from Lexus cost almost the same as the entire car when I bought it. However, I did get a very good deal from a second-hand breaker that was very lucky enough, and I was very fortunate enough to buy one of these. Some companies seems like have a little bit of an issue. Obviously, it's a safety system, so it's got obviously pyrotechnics in there, and some people aren't very happy to sell these, which is kind of fair enough. You know, it's their responsibility. But anyhow, another point when I was trying to research these is older cars won't have this. So, you know, if you didn't have this, would it be the end of the world? I don't know. Anyhow, we replaced them. We've got them fitted. I'm now just put this new hinge on. So now it all sits nice and flush, and it's not broken or anything. It's a little bit. I've been painting it, so it's not the perfect, but it should be absolutely fine. So yeah, we're getting close now. I just need to do the other side, put the wing back on, and then I can start on the front actually. So yeah. Okay, so we managed to get these on. We got both of the sides on. Got the pedestrian crash protection system on. Now I'm going to get these. These are the some of the parts for the main frame that kind of sit down here and on that side as well. So we're going to get them on. We get this top bit on as well. Just trying to attach some of the horn and the latch cable and a few things like that. So try and get that sorted. Let's begin.
Now I'm moving on to the front bridge. This was obviously very, very simple. It's just bolt on, bolt off. All the parts that connected to it are all aligned, all ready to go. I did actually have to glue on some of those stoppers for the front radiator, which you can kind of see in the middle of the screen, but that wasn't too tricky. The main hard part for this was trying to figure out what screws to use, and I had to go back and rewatch quite a few of my old videos in order to figure out which are the specific screws and in which position and bolt holes they go in. So that was the only hard part, because I'd done that 2 or 3 months before filming this video. Now I'm moving on to the main structural parts of the car. So these are 2 little crash beams that sit in front that connect to the main aluminium bar on the front of the car. They're pretty easy to install. It's four screws. I think they were M17 screws, so pretty chunky in the grand scheme of things. That just needed to be screwed in. The only problem I had is that I had very little clearance in order to get my sockets in there and move that around. So like I said in previous videos, this is very much 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. I had to remove that bottom section, that bottom air take filter, to allow me access to get those screws in, which did help a lot.
So the problem I have is this tab is very close to being on the edge of this one here. That one sits okay, generally okay. This one sits okay. This one is really quite forced. So if I just quickly get this off, you can show what I mean. That, you know, it's sitting quite far off the position, so you really need to like push it down, which then pushes pressure on that side, which is popping the whole thing out. And then I can't get to that one there. There's one there that I need to pull the whole thing forwards. Yeah, we have to play around these tabs, see what we can get. First set of fitment. Bear in mind the bottom screws aren't done in. It's not terrible. Not great, not terrible.
So I thought as I was doing this, if I'm going to get this wing to be absolutely perfect to the best of my ability, I'm going to need to take the side skirt off. When I took the wing off originally, I was able to wiggle my socket in there to get access to the bolts, but to put it on, I need to get this skirt off. So I figured out a way of trying to unbolt and find all the screws for this. It was pretty simple. It just took a bit of time to figure out the best method of doing it. And then as you can see, the heavens opened and it started raining. I did try and persist for a period of time, but unfortunately it just kept on raining and the car was just getting wet, especially with the engine bay completely open.
Okay, day 4 of trying to put the front end on, and I guess as you can probably tell, I was going a little bit slower than I originally first thought. Yeah, we'll get there bit by bit, but anyway, it's just slow progress because it's very much of a 3 steps forward, 2 steps back type of event in the order in which you put stuff on. Anyway, so getting close. Managed to get most of the front end on, so I bought all new parts for this. Got the front bridge, got the front and left side on. So the order in which I need to do things on is I need to get this wing on. So I've replaced all of the hinges, the pop-up hood stuff now has been done, and you've obviously seen that in the previous bit. I need to get this wing on here. The problem I have is there's 2 screws down here, and in order to get proper access to that, to be able to fit it properly, to like try and get me mounted on nicely, I need to take the side skirt off. So I'm going to quickly do that now. I started yesterday, but then it started raining, and as you can see, I work outside. It's just so much better, so much more light. So anyway, so side skirt off, then I can put the front on, the front wing. Then I guess I've tried to connect up as much of this sort of stuff here on the front. I've been trying to re-watch my old videos. I am missing the front latch, which kind of sits here. When obviously the bonnet comes down, it connects to the latch. Unfortunately, mine is really bent, and it's really hard to bend some of this metal stuff out. If it's, you know, if it's a single bit of metal like this, you can hammer it out a little bit, but with lots of intricate bits of metal that's really tough, you need like a proper vise and yeah, to be able to put it all together. So I'm gonna have to buy a new one. I'm gonna have to pick one up from Lexus this week, so I'll do that. Anyhow, so I think that's fine. That's not going to affect. So I can put the front crash bar on. I can put the front balloon bar on as well. I can then put the under tray on. There's two sets of under trays for this bit. And then once I've done that, I can put the front crash bar on. Could put the front bumper on. Try the front bumper out. Obviously got the wing on. I probably won't put the skirt back on yet because I need to check for fitment. So anyway, I'm going to try and do that all today. I think the only thing that's going to stop me is if I get more issues or more problems, like screws not coming undone, or you know, trying to find a new order in order to do something. So yeah, we should get there, and so I'm going to time lapse the rest of this now. I've got a lot of people outside and I haven't quite broken the embarrassment of talking and vlogging in public yet, so yeah, I'll start the time lapse now. Oh my god, I'm an idiot. Had it on the wrong bloody way. Oh well, live and learn. Live and learn. There we go. Woo-hoo, so let's get off. Now, can we appreciate how much dirt collects in these things? Random clip. Okay. Take that. Look how dirty that is. It's ridiculous.
So at this point, I'd managed to put all the bolts on to the main wing, and I was feeling very pleased with myself until this happens. So you can hear it just as I open the door.
Okay, so got the front wing on. Problem that I've got is it's not fitted very well at all. It's bad. I know it's bad. You know, if you just compare it with like that, it looks pretty neat, right? You got this. Anywho, yeah, it's pretty bad. I'm gonna need some help with this. You can kind of see here as well that the wing is really pushed in, so like there's a real big lip between both these two. Yeah, there you go. Between both the cars. It might not seem like much, but anyway, something's wrong. I've now got to the point where I can open and close the door without it being caught. And the reason why it probably is being caught is because it's pushed in, this wing is pushed in that way, just enough, a couple millimeters, so that when this turns, it clips the corner. So anyway, I'm gonna have to need some help with that one. Gonna have to get some from the body shops when I take this to get painted and everything, just to help me with the fitment of this panel, because this was the one that was in the accident. I managed to try and bring this bit out a bit to be a bit more in line with what the other side's doing. Whether that's perfect or not, I don't know, but I'm gonna have to have some help with this one because this is a pain of a wing. But I don't think it needs to be replaced. We can just try and mend it. Okay, so I'm gonna try and get the floor stuff on. Move on to the next stuff.
I know you want to be famous. Good boy, sit down there. Here we go.
Unfortunately, a lot of the things I was doing in this episode just seemed to take way longer than I thought. And this was another classic example. So I was trying to put this under tray on, and obviously I don't have a ramp, a lift. I'm trying to do this under the car, and trying to hold it up and screw it in with obviously only two hands is very tricky. So I ended up using this box to prop it up, but I probably struggled for about 10 minutes before I got to this point, you know, trying to just brute force it, trying to get it through. But it just comes to show that simple things like this really can take a long time. Obviously based on what help you may have, based on whether you've got the right equipment to make sure that you can do it properly. So it did take quite a long time for me to get this on, and it seems such a simple thing to do, but obviously just the positioning of it under the car, reaching forward to try and get those rear screws in, while obviously having the car slightly jacked up a little bit higher. But it just took a bit of time, so it just goes to show that these small tasks can take a bit of time. So at this point, I'm now transferring all the remaining little bits of trim from the old broken aluminum bar, which is pretty broken. So that was pretty simple, just a couple of clips, and then we'll get ready to put it on the car. And it shall appear in 3, 2, 1, boom. So this is pretty simple as well. It's just a couple of, I think it's M15, M17 bolts. So some of the bigger ones in order to make sure that it's correctly connected, and these just go into those steel beams that we put in earlier. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. But as I was doing this, I remembered there was a couple of bits of trim that sit inside those steel beams, which basically kind of, I think they allow air to funnel into the radiator. And in order to do that, I needed to remove that front section of the car that I just put on. So that was a little bit frustrating, but it certainly allowed me to get the proper access to get these clips in for these bits of trim.
Okay, so we're coming to the end. We've managed to do quite a lot this weekend and next week.
Uh-oh, my mic died. So I did manage to do quite a bit in this episode. Unfortunately, it's not quite as far as I thought. I managed to do this front crash bar, managed to get those steel beams on the inside of those trims, the horn. Obviously, I'm waiting for the latch. The latch is completely broken and needs to be replaced. And then unfortunately, the side wing did take a significant amount of time in order to try and fit. But we did also manage to get that main cross sidebar on as well. But yeah, this wing was just a real pain. It just took me so long in order to try and get it positioned. And it did maybe seriously question whether or not it was in the the right shape of the car. Unfortunately, it's hard to say with this because there's no major dents. It's not as if you can just pull a dent out and the wing is absolutely perfect. It's back to normal. It really makes you question whether the entire shape of it is kind of completely molded, and whether or not it's still kind of fit for purpose. Not to mention that front bit where the headlight meets is still quite rusty, still quite damaged. So it kind of brings into question whether or not that wing is good. But overall, the front of the car is looking relatively good now. We managed to get the like I say, the front steel beams on, the front aluminium, and all the trays underneath. So definitely heading in the right direction, and it kind of sets us up to really finish things off moving forwards. In the next episode, I'm going to be tackling the boot and trying to get the front bonnet on, trying to get the front bumper on, trying to do first fitment tests in order to try and do that. Also trying to repair some of the headlights in order to get those in preparation. And like I said before, the main ideal is to try and get this car back on the road, trying to get it to some body shops in order for paint, in order to pull that back rear end out. So overall, it's been quite a frustrating episode, this one. It's taken a lot longer for me to achieve some pretty simple tasks, but overall, I still have been happy to try and get the airbox in, to try and get that front whole section done, including the intake, a new fuse box as well. So these were all parts that I was missing before that I've managed to build up, and it's so much more satisfying building it up. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video, and I will see you all in the next one.